What's going on? You have tuned in to a special edition of On The Move Unscripted with Patricia M. Goins. No, Mr. Stout ain't here today, but I do have his cousin,
Hey.
Miss Shirell Warren-Stout. So today we're going to be talking about her book and what life is like in California, because I'm here visiting, and then just her church and just anything she wants to talk about. So we like to take everybody down the yellow brick road. We call it the yellow brick road, right?
Okay.
The yellow brick road is not like Dorothy and the Wiz, but it is Dorothy and the Wiz. So anyway, tell us about who is he.
Okay.
But before you get to who is he, tell us about you.
Okay, well, I am a writer, but I'm also an educator by profession, and I'm also a writer, and I'm also a poet. I even did a little bit of background acting when I first came to LA. Every now and then I still work for Central California.
And I see that little piano over there. You doing
Yeah,
a little stuff.
and I'm a beginner in piano. I had been taking piano lessons for a few years before the pandemic hit with our church musician, Paul McDonald, who's awesome.
I went to church today. That was cool.
And we also just came from our service today.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's, a little bit about me. And I've been writing since I was like 10, 11 years old. Yeah, so.
So what was the first thing that you wrote? Like, when did you know that I love writing? I love words. I love...
Oh, when did I know? Well, it would be when I was probably 10 years old. There was my favorite book at that time was called Happily Ever After, and it was basically an anthology of all the famous fairy tales that we learned: Cinderella, Sleeping Beauty, and I loved that book. And then when I would go to the library in Bangs Avenue Elementary School back in Asbury, that would be one of the books I would get almost as often as I could. So I was a person that if I'm watching TV or a movie and it doesn't end the way I want it to end, I would think about an alternate ending. So I believe that was part of the writer in me that wants to have a different ending for things and how I would perceive it. So I believe it started then with me wanting to have a story and being able to have an ending that I prefer. A happily ever after ending, I guess, in so many words.
So you're far distance away from New Jersey, which is where I know Mr. Stout is from. What brought you all the way to Inglewood, California?
Oh, well, I always wanted to live in California, and when I became a Christian, as a Christian, you want to follow what God's leading. So when I was led to come out here in 1998, I did. And the good thing for me is I was fortunate that my father was already out here. My father's family, who've been here since the 40s, were already out here. So I had a good support system when I did move out here. And I came out here to pursue acting and pursue writing and to pursue the arts. And I figured this was the best place to be to do that. And for me, it was also about God leading me at the right time to come out here.
Did you ever do any acting?
Yes, I did. I did do some background work when I first came out here to California. I worked on the Parkers. I worked on...
the Parkers.
Trying to think of the other Sister. I worked
Sister?
Yeah, I did Sister. Yes, I did Sister.
So you met Lauryn Hill?
No, I didn't meet Lauryn Hill.
Oh, okay.
But the people that you work on the shows, you meet them. You're not supposed to talk to them. You can get fired for that. But unless they talk to you.
Oh no, I'm thinking about Sisters Act.
This was Sisters.
Okay.
With Tia and Tamara.
Oh, the twins.
Yeah,
okay,
the twins.
Okay.
And then I did that. I did a movie called Bowfinger's Big Thing, which was with Steve Martin and Eddie Murphy. So I got to see them.
Okay.
And then, just other movies came along. But The Parkers was really special to me because that show was just coming out and I got to meet Monique.
Okay.
And literally everybody who came through her line, she kissed everybody. And she's like, did y'all see my show yet? Why you didn't see my show? We're like, it just came out. So she was just a character. And I really got featured a lot in that particular episode that I did, which is the Austin Powers episode. If you ever want to look it up on YouTube, you'll see that we were in there, and I see myself in like at least 3 or 4 different scenes. So it was really cool.
So you did what you wanted to do. You came, and that was one of your dreams was to act.
Yeah, and I did theater too. I did 2 plays. One play was called Please Believe Me When I Say I Love You, and that was a play that I did with a lady who has worked with various artists. Like Stevie Wonder. And then I also did a play called The Light in the Darkness, which is what one of the church members at the church I was going to at the time, she was at USC as a theater major, and she had me cast in her play, which is basically a black version of Hamlet. So I got to do that, which I enjoyed, and background work, not the high flying, A-list stuff, but I just enjoy acting. So even if it's just the lowly things, I was just glad to be able to do that. And you always meet interesting people that way.
Does it seem like they're very supportive of unknown artists and acting and, the indies? Like, does it seem like LA, California is very supportive of that?
I think they are. It's just that obviously if you're an independent filmmaker, because I have a friend of mine, I forgot I also did a film back in 2000 where he's an independent filmmaker. It is harder because you have to get people to back up as financial backers for your work. So they're supportive, but you have to be the self-starter because nobody's going to just come and give you money for a film. So it's a little bit more competitive because a lot of people are independent because you can't always sell a script to somebody and then that's how you get in.
Right.
So it is competitive and it's a lot more difficult, but there are people who are out here trying to make it happen.
So what about other parts of the arts? Like yesterday I went to, in fact, hold on, I should have brought it. I went to get me something to eat, right? And I went to a salon. In fact, I've got to mention them because I've never been to a salon that opened up with such open arms. And I said when I did my next show, I was going to mention them. And I am a woman of my word.
Okay.
So I went to this, have you heard of this salon? RVM Salons?
No, I haven't heard of them.
It's RVM Salons. Shout out to them because they're located at 5373 Wilshire Boulevard. You know where that is?
Yeah, I know Wilshire.
Mm-hmm. Yes. I walked in there just to say hello and to promote, what I got in my books and stuff. And they were open arms. So, definitely stop by there with your book, your flyers or whatever. Literally, when I walked in, I said, can I share my flyer? And it was like, oh, yeah, go ahead, give everybody one. Oh. And from the front to the back, from the stylists, including the customers, everybody was open arms taking it. Yeah. And it was a nice salon, yeah.
Oh, good.
They're located right next to the Caribbean Soul Kitchen, LA. You ever heard of them?
No, I haven't, but now that I have, I will definitely check them out.
That's another one, yes. And they allowed me to put some of my flyers in their restaurant as well. You just, probably you had to order something.
Of course.
Yeah. They gonna just be like, but yeah. So that's why I'm asking. Like, does it seem like, the businesses, the African American community, does it seem like they embrace the artistic people? The
I believe they
people?
do because we do have the Pan African Film Festival, which just wrapped a few weeks ago. Mm-hmm. We have had that, and we have I think it's the 31st year of it. Mm-hmm. And so there's definitely in our community people who are embracing the arts. Mm-hmm. So it's definitely something that is being supported in our community.
Because some communities do not support. Certain cities do, like I know Atlanta does, Mm-hmm. And I think my hometown, Columbus, Ohio, is getting better with it, Okay. But there are certain communities that still do not embrace independent people, independent artists, the indies. Okay. I call us the indies. Self-published authors, filmmakers, actors, musicians, all of you who are independent, you're not signed to a major label, mm-hmm. you're an indie is what I call.
Yeah, well, I can speak for myself, even with my book, Who Is He? My church allowed me to have a book signing there. And they also opened it up to all the other Lutheran churches. So we had other people from other churches come to our church and purchase my book. Okay. So they have been very supportive in that way. Just my church, which is, as you can see, is mainly of African descent. Mm-hmm. So definitely there's support there.
And what was the organization that your church mentioned?
Oh, that was the African descent organization. Mm-hmm. So it's something that our church is a part of, along with other Lutheran churches that have primarily African descent population. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's what that was.
Okay. So let's get into Who Is He? Tell us about Who Is He? And I love this. She said this is the house. You said this is the house that my boyfriend grew up in.
Yeah, and me. Yeah, so this
Yeah.
is actually the house that I grew up in. So this is a coming of age book where this question continually pops up in the story. So this is the theme, who is he? And you have to read the book to get that answer to this question. But it's a coming of age story, so most of it's true. So it basically takes place from the early 70s to the late 80s. And it's about my life and about people who are in my life. Some people, obviously, the names have been changed, and some people, it's their actual name. So most of it's true. So basically, it's a coming of age story where who is he? This question is significant to the journey of my coming of age.
For adults now and the adults yet to come, the coming of age experiences are part of life. Throughout our life, we grapple with what is frivolous and what is important. It is of my opinion that this struggle is at its most animated in our childhood years. Both the frivolous and important, the vain and the profound, are all new to us in our youth. In our youth, many of us find it easy to hold on to a symbol of what we perceive as important or most important in life. Although the symbols will vary, the approach is basically the same. To put it simply, the approach is catching the brass ring of life. Come with me on a journey of a young city girl of Generation X status to discover her initial symbol of what is important to what is unchanging. Our young city girl will not be alone in her journey. We have Aunt Wilma, Cousin Patrice, and Cousin Tiger, friends, teachers, and people we can only see from afar along for the ride. There are the quintessential effects of the 1970s and 1980s, such as 8-tracks and neon colors. Was neon colors? I'm trying to remember.
In the 80s, yeah.
Yes, this is somewhat a period piece of fiction. Nevertheless, I hope those who are before, during, and after this time period will relate to the story on some level. The story covers a little over a decade of the protagonist's life, primarily in 2-year intervals. The story, as the title suggests, is a question that the protagonist struggles to answer. Some questions in life are simple yet infinite. Our city girl's question is of the latter. There are plenty of references to pop culture and even a few historical events. However, keep in mind the question, who is he? Okay.
So that's my summary of the book. Like I said, it is a coming of age book, and even though it's a book of fiction, most of it did happen. Mm-hmm. So I would say at least 90% is true, and then there's the 10% that's in fiction.
Wow. So I know, is this your first book?
This is actually my second book. I wrote a children's book back in 2000 called The Three-Legged Man, which was actually a poem that I turned into a children's book with my writers group. So this is actually my second book.
Colorings.
Yeah, there's a few illustrations. My brother, Jack Stout, did the illustrations, which were based on sketches that a friend of mine, Diana Prout, did. Yeah.
How did it feel? Like, or better yet, let me say, they say that a lot of first-time authors or new authors generally use true experiences from their life to shape their story.
Yes.
Many people do. I know I did, and so. Was there any particular thing that happened in your life that made you want to write this book? Like, I know for me, in my book, for me it was therapy. So was there anything good or traumatic, or was there something that made you want to write the story and ask that question, who is he?
Yeah, what happened in my life is that I became a Christian when I was a teenager. And the thing that particularly caused me to want to write this book is that years later, when I was writing to, doing a pen pal to a young woman in Africa, because the church I came from, we did crusades in Zambia and Malawi and in Zimbabwe. So I think that the young lady I was writing was from Malawi, Her name was Martha, and we were told that we can, just write to people. And I was like, "What, Lord? What should I write?" So the Lord showed me that I should write my testimony on how I became a Christian. So that's basically what I wrote in the letter. And then after I wrote this letter, I just felt as if God was telling me, "You need to write this in a book." So this is basically my testimony of how I came to Christ. And so that was what spurred this book, because of my conversion.
Awesome and amazing. So definitely, you are definitely going to have to get a copy of this. I'm definitely interested in getting a copy. It says illustrations by Jack C. Stout, which is your
My brother.
Okay.
And then the sketches are by Diana Proud, a friend of mine.
Okay, awesome and amazing. It's a fictional book.
Yeah, it's a fictional book, even though most of it's true. Since all of it's not true, I couldn't say nonfiction. However, in the future, I will be writing nonfiction books about my life. So that will be completely, everything there will be completely true. Yes.
Okay. And when you grew up with Kenny, and Kenny was a good little boy.
Yeah, he was a happy kid. I mean,
Mr.
Kenneth
Stout
would wake up singing. He would wake up singing. He was a good kid. Very, very kind-hearted. Yes.
Oh, so he wasn't sneaky. I told him
No, he wasn't.
I told him he had that little smile that just seemed like he was sneaky. He wasn't, huh?
He was not. He was a good kid.
He was a good kid.
Yeah.
Loving. He is still loving. So
Yeah.
I can imagine that. That is so awesome and amazing. I love talking to other authors and just finding out, what inspired them to write. How long did it take you to write it?
I wrote this book in a year, the manuscript. I actually started writing this book in the mid-90s is when I had the idea. That's when I told you I wrote the pen pal. And then shortly after that, I started doing the writing. And it was more about research. I'm like, okay, I need to research because, I'm removed from the 80s. This is like the 90s now. And I wanted to research so I can kind of recapture what that felt like growing up at that time, because I wanted it to reflect not who I was now, but who I was then, because I'm writing a period piece. So I did for a few months I did research, maybe about 6 months, and then in '97 is when I actually started, getting the idea together, the skeleton I call it, where, this is going to be this chapter, that chapter. So you kind of had an outline. And then from 98 to 99 is when I actually sat down and wrote it. And so it took me about a year to actually write the manuscript. And then, of course, after that, I typed it, had it on those little floppy disks back then, and then eventually translated it to what we have now, the flash drives.
How can I get a copy of it?
Oh, you can go on Amazon. It's available through Amazon, Barnes & Noble's online. And it's also in Kindle, so you can get it for, I believe it's $23 on Amazon and Barnes & Noble, but also you can get Kindle for, I think it's $9.99. And I also will be doing a book signing this next April 24th. I will be doing a book signing. Let me just make sure I got the right date, because I don't want to give people the wrong date who are in the area. But yeah, this will be on, April 22nd, I'm going to be doing a book signing, and that book signing, people can come. The books are going to be already there. If they
Where's it going to be at?
This is going to be at USC.
Okay.
Yes, and what I will do is I'll be putting this on my social media as the time approaches so that you can get more details. But I'll be doing a book signing because I partnered with a company in New Jersey that purchased 50 of my books, so that people can just come and I would literally sign the book, and you will have the book because it's already paid for.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so that will be with USC on April 22nd.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I believe my times are 12 to 2. But like I said, it will be on my social media. I'm Shirell Warren-Stout. You can look me up on Twitter or Facebook, and I will put those coming attractions there for anybody who's in the area, in the LA area, who would like to come and have me sign a book and give you the book.
And I think that's very interesting that you write a book about the coming of age of when you found Christ, when you decided to give your life to Christ, or when you got baptized. I think I was like 12 the first time, but I don't know if I knew really what was going on. I think I was just doing it because it just seemed like it was cool to do.
Yeah.
But when I turned 25, that's when I did it, and it was like I really felt I felt like something had happened. I just wasn't sure. And then I started wanting to understand what the word faith really meant. And so I began to, that has been my, I want to say almost mission. It's like everything I do is about faith. Like even coming here, it was like I couldn't just not come, even though the event that I was supposed to go to was canceled and things were filled with confusion. It was like I've grown to the point as a Christian to understand that ain't nothing but a setup. Like, you better go ahead and still go.
Okay.
That's just a test. It's a test to see, are you going to trust God to still provide, to still do things, to still make a way? Or are you going to allow this setback to make you upset, disappointed, focused on the negative and not go?
Exactly.
So in becoming a new Christian, I began to understand and began to ask God questions. And my question I asked God is, what is faith? Like, God, I really want to understand what it means to have faith. And so I began to walk in that. And God took me on a 20-year journey and showed me over and over again in them 20 years what it meant to have faith. And having faith ain't always easy. But in order to get to certain levels of your life, faith is necessary. And that's what I've learned, So the fact that you wrote a book about who is he, there are a lot of people who are probably questioning, and they're probably wondering themselves. And they might read this and come out with a better understanding of who is he.
Exactly.
Love that. And so how can I get in touch with you again? And where can I get your book again? I just took over your book.
No, that's all right. Well, Who Is He is available, as I said, on Amazon.com. You can also go to Barnes & Nobles. It's available in paperback, as you can see right here. It's also available in Kindle for $9.99 for those who want to just do a digital. So you can get it through that. And as I said, I will be putting on my social media. I'm on Instagram as well, Shirell Warren-Stout. I'm also on Facebook, Shirell Warren-Stout, and Twitter. And I will be updating you that I will be at USC on April 22nd. That's a Saturday. And I will have books that I will be able to sign and that they have been paid for by the company who's sponsoring me for this, so that you can also get a book that way, and I will actually personally sign it for you.
That is such a blessing to, and that's probably a good thing to do, to reach out different organizations, different like domestic violence shelters, treatment centers, different people who need things to read, things to do while they're there, and those are good things, to provide. So I'm so happy that I got a chance to not only meet Kenny's family, another member of his family, but also to come to California. I've had an awesome trip. God was true to his word when he said, trust me. I started off my trip on the beach watching my first sunset. It was with Kenny that I saw my first sunrise in New Jersey.
Oh, okay.
Jersey. Because they said the sun rises in the east and it sets in the west. Mm-hmm. So I got to experience my first sunset, and I felt like I experienced it with God, because I was literally sitting on that rock, and I was just like, I know I got an appointment with God today, and I know He gonna tell me something, but I don't know what. Like, what is it? And then I just looked and saw the sun, like in that midst of setting. I said, oh my gosh, that is so beautiful. That's so amazing. And so, and then going to the church and singing with Lady Crystal, and I was singing about that, like, the amazing. God is amazing. He makes the sunset in the west and the sunrise in the east. Everything is done without effort. So why do we worry?
Yeah.
Why do we fear?
Yeah.
He got our backs.
Yes, He does indeed.
Yeah. So what words of encouragement or guidance or information would you give to someone who is trying to figure out who is he, and for two, someone who is considering writing their own book?
Well, my guidance, or I should say my advice to you, is that pray to God and ask Him to reveal Himself to you. And if you don't already have a Bible, get a Bible. Get a Bible and start reading in the New Testament, the book of John. The Bible, there are some parts that can be complex, so I would suggest that you pray and ask God to reveal Himself and get His Word, the Bible. Purchase a Bible, or maybe you can get a Bible as a gift, and start reading in the book of John so God can answer this question for you. Now, for those, which is who is He? And for those who would like to write, I would say try to write a little bit every day. Just start writing. Write about what you know. Like I wrote about my life. I wrote about a particular time in my life. Writers are best when they write about what they know, because what you know you have a passion for, you have a knowledge of. So whatever it is that you want to write about, start writing. It doesn't have to be perfect. You don't have to worry about grammar. You're just trying to get your thoughts down. And the only way that you're going to ever get to this point is you got to literally start writing. Your paper to pen or pencil to pen, pencil to paper. Just literally start writing. And try to write every day. And it may not be every day that you can do it, but the fact that you're actually putting in action the groundwork of your novel, your poem, your play, your skit, whatever it is, just literally spend some time writing as much as you can every day.
I love that. And I brought mine too. And I need to autograph this for you too. I'm going to autograph this for you.
Okay.
So my book is called Are You Ready to Open Your Gifts from God? And it's so cool that we're both, who is he? And are you ready to open your gifts from God? You see how those two go together? It's like, who is he? And are you ready to open your gifts from God? You know what I'm saying? I think that's often amazing. So, and I am like you. I agree. If you're going to write, get a journal and just a little bit every day. And then once you get to that point where you're ready to take some of those journaling thoughts and put them together, then I would say, organize it like an outline and just write a paragraph of each chapter, a paragraph for chapter 1, a paragraph for chapter 2, a paragraph, however many chapters, kind of like let your mind, like a flowing thought of how you want the story to go. What do you want to happen in the beginning? What do you want to happen in this, later on? Because each chapter builds on the next. And so if you can get an organization of how you want the story to flow, then you can go back and fill in all the others part. And don't feel stressed to do it or pressed to do it in any kind of certain way. Just do it. But so that's our cue that it's time to go. On the Move Unscripted.
Bye.
Peace and love. Don't forget to tune in next Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. blogtalkradio.com/Patricia Goins.